So the way it started in, as I understand, during World War I, the Germans basically found out using copper oxide rectifier the property of if you connect it in one direction, it will allow the current to flow. So in other direction, it will block. What I mean is, we all know about a battery, it has a positive and negative. So if you connect it in one way, it will offer a low resistance. If you connect it in the other way, it will offer a relatively high resistance so that current doesn't flow. So this property is made use of. It is just like, very simply put, you have switch in your home. If you turn it on, the light comes on. If you turn it off, the light goes off. So the way we treat it is, on is where this transistor is active or a diode is active, allowing the current to pass. Off means it doesn't allow. So think of it that way. So this property of on and off, in the digital math, it is called our binary math 0 and 1. Okay, it is treated as 0 as being on, 1 being on, 0 being off. This is how a basic diode works, and later on a transistor also, which could be controlled, also works in the same way. As transistors says, it's a transition of resistance. That's why it is called transistor. So this property of this transistor is made use of in building logic blocks and later on ICs and stuff like that. And thing has progressed so much over the period of years. So I got a chance to work with, compared to copper oxide, the next one was selenium rectifier, which I built, manufactured in Bombay back in the 70s, which basically, other than rectifier, we even did photocell property of selenium rectifier. Anyway, then the vacuum tubes took over, which are really huge. And because it consumes a lot of power, similar to this polycrystalline device, so they were very inefficient because it will consume a lot of power because its resistance, low resistance, was not that low compared to silicon diode, which was invented in World War, in the Second World War around 1947-48 by Schottky. Most of you should know it. And that is what is ruling us, the silicon property, all the transistors, diodes, SCRs, integrated circuits, all those things are existing with silicon diodes. So the vacuum tubes were very huge, consume a lot of power. Even a lot of computers were done in those days. And basically, I think power is something which is very, very important. You cannot waste the power, and you got to be thrifty, which is a problem even today. And we'll talk about that much more. So that was the evolution of transistor and then to integrated circuit. So I think this will, then I had the opportunity of coming over to United States in 78. Can you go back to the previous file briefly or talk about, so as it says, after I came here, kept on thinking about a lot of new things. And the first project that I was working on was making images. Images are similar to the camera, the photocell that you have, the camera chip on your cell phone. I did this back in 78. These were, it was very difficult to manufacture a 1-inch by 1-inch area images, which was used in Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. Those of you who don't know what is Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, you should probably Google and find out. Basically, United States and NASA plan to send spaceships through our solar system, escape the solar system and into the Milky Way. And I worked on these technologies, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, in 2 different directions. These things have achieved its mission. It escaped the solar system probably, I think, around 2011, 12, around that time, but it's still working. Really proud that I got to work on this technology, and this thing is still working and still taking pictures from deep in space. If you are interested, you can go to NASA website. You can type in Voyager 1, Voyager 2. You can see all the pictures. Beautiful pictures are all our planets and the intergalaxy. Then in early 80s or late 80s, I got to work on the first PlayStation, which you all know. And let me digress a little bit. I think the whole industry started, my first job in Fairchild Semiconductors, it was the father or the mother of all the semiconductor industry that you see. In fact, all the big companies, you talk about Intel, Andy Grove, and Jerry Sanders from AMD, and National Semiconductors. All these companies came out of HR. And I'm so fortunate I was able to work in these companies, excepting Intel, where I'm proud, at least my brother got to work there. So we used to exchange a lot of notes. So over and above that, I've done a lot of unique things for the industry, for mankind, and for the society too. And later on in 2000, I worked with DARPA, which is a military organization in US for blind people to see, which became a product, and today blind people can see. We can talk about it if you're interested later. So that's a lot of unique things that I've done, and really proud. And I'm doing this talk basically so that all the young engineers out there in India, very specifically, and throughout the world, and all the Indians to the rest of the world get benefited, because I feel that the knowledge is getting lost. And I wanted to share this, and I would like to have a series of meetings like this to talk more and more, because we're not going to have enough time today to cover everything. And let's go to the next file to complete this thing as far as ICC is concerned. Can you go to the next file? So before we dive into this, I think like what I said, I think I worked on literally on digital technologies, all analog technologies, and most difficult one is analog, because very simply put, digital math, which I told you, it is very easy for us to understand and for the computers to understand. And the computers even today works on zeros and one. So, but the negative side of it is every transistor that you add, it consumes power, and any function that you keep on adding, it consumes tremendous amount of power. So heat is something which is the biggest problem for all of us. Just to give you an example, let us say, so right now probably, it was raining in Bangalore, but it won't last long. You will feel the hot temperature, which will be 40 plus. In Delhi, sometimes it hits 45 and stuff like that. And if you go to Sahara Desert, or here in California, Nevada, about a Death Valley, as it's called, I mean, the temperature goes to 52, 53 degrees centigrade, and even the Middle East also. Do you think any of us can survive for more than 5 minutes in that temperature? Hell no, you will die. Even the brain requires cooling. So similarly, why I'm giving that example is this: more transistors you add, the more heat is going to be produced, and you need to cool that silicon chip for it to function. Just like we said, the human mind, it needs to be cooled, otherwise it's not going to function. The same is with the transistors. So I'm trying to give you as much practical examples as possible so that you all can understand. So I will dwell into that in detail. I think at this stage, Ishan, how are we doing on timing? Maybe people can ask questions before I dive into AI and other stuff.
Yes. So that's exactly what I was thinking.